God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us. He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, and thank you all again for tuning in to another broadcast of I Have a Testimony. And as you know, I'm your host, Brother Willie Muhammad. And today we have a brother that I've been waiting to get on this show. We talk often, so many topics we talk about, but many of you all know him. You probably was decked out in some of his what I call it, NOI pair dress, right? You probably saw our brother keeping us with our NOI gear, FOI gear. So let's bring our brother up so you all can hear him. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Ramadan Mubarak, my brother.
Kareem, sir.
Man, thank you for this opportunity. I know last week we were supposed to do it, but things take place, man, and we weren't able to get it done. But thank you, my brother.
Yes, sir.
Hailing from the 1-5. That's what my people from New Orleans who are in Atlanta, they talk about the 1-5. So let's get straight to it, man. We've talked, but I don't think I ever heard your story. How did you come to the Nation of Islam?
My parents were actually in the first.
Wow.
Yes, sir. They joined the nation as teenagers under the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, number 7. They actually registered in the Corona Temple, which was under Minister Akbar, formerly known as Minister Larry. So my uncles, aunties, and my parents, they came in around 72. So I was actually born into the nation, myself, six of us all together. So at the time, before the messenger departed, it was 3 of us. So yes, sir. Wow.
So do they happen to have any pictures or photos from those days with Brother Akbar and the minister?
Absolutely. Well, not with the minister or Minister Akbar. My parents have reconnected with Minister Akbar as well. But we have several pictures. I have quite a few. I'll forward them to you.
What did they do? They ever share any stories about that time that you can share? Anything you remember that they talked about?
Absolutely. The minister at the time, had 18 temples.
Yeah.
2 Spanish-speaking temples. And he ran it all the way from 7A to 7R, from my understanding. And, they would all meet. The brothers would meet on Saturday for FOI class. My dad was and my uncle, they were members of the Fish Force. He still has his ID. He actually met with some of the brothers in New York recently and shared some of that history as well. Talks of, he used to hold posts at Yusuf Shah's home. Just war stories. I mean, he was very young at the time. So you're talking about 18 joining the nation. And at that time, you couldn't live with mom and dad. So, they were on man time for sure. So there's an experience where I was actually almost born in another FOI's vehicle because my dad was on post and he wasn't able to get to my mom, who, was on maternity leave, obviously, but got to the hospital right on time, brother. So, yes, sir.
Wow. So they came in 72. We know what took place 3 years after that. Do they ever talk about, or do you know what was their experience during the fall of the nation? Did they go with the imam? What?
Interesting question. they did not go with the imam. And these conversations, they came up quite a bit as I began to have interest in, changing my life. The presence of the minister in our home, even though we didn't practice Islam per se, after the departure, we knew who the minister was. We had pictures of the messenger in our home. We knew the greetings. We knew to show respect to the brothers when we did see them. We would go to mosque events. So in that time when we came up, the spirit and just the level of consciousness, it was cool to be associated with, Black militants and just the message of Black empowerment. So the atmosphere, it was really conducive for us, and it provided I think, a real fertile ground for me to take in a lot of information. And interestingly enough, I did have an uncle who did not go with the minister and went the Orthodox route. May Allah be pleased with him. There were differences. And at a young age, in my own mind and even in my circles, I would always be one defending the teachings. So, and interestingly, I just, my mom kept a journal when she was pregnant with me and even as I was developing as a baby. And I got a chance to read just some of the notes that she left that gave me a picture of just her state of mind at the time. And brother, I mean, I'm thankful to Allah that I even have that, because it peak into the woman that, birthed me into this world, and really ultimately has a lot to do with my decision to come into the nation.
Wow, man. So born into the nation fell. Like you say, you all had the Islam war in practice. So like you just mentioned, you had to eventually at some point make the decision to say, I want to be a part of the nation. So how did that take place?
Well, I had to experience some things, and because I knew better, I was at college at the time, as they say, living my best life. So I think I did attend the Million Man March, and I'll never forget, it was a young Muslim, but I went to the North Carolina Central University in Durham. And I knew, brother, the minister came to our campus, brother, and I didn't even show up. I will never live that down, but I was just into everything else. And I had experienced some hardships and some near-death experiences, actually, that kind of put things in perspective for me, to get me to reflect. And at the time, at a young age, because I left home at 18 for college, and I was gone, brother, and into a little bit of everything. And I was able to call back, my upbringing and the things that I knew that, the way I should be living. And it was organic. I had a mother who was already locked in, 12, 13, 14, and even older than that. We were going to see Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. Ben, John Henry Clark. So this was my upbringing, and to balance that, they kept us very active in sports year round, so that kind of helped to shape me as well. Just the structure of the camaraderie and the competitive nature of sports. And I come from a big family. It's 5 boys and 1 girl. So,
wow,
we had that competitive energy in the house at all times. So, we always had a sparring partner, always. So that was kind of, and I'm not talking about playing either. So, but these are some of the things that helped to shape me. So when I went to the Million Man March, that seed was planted. It was profound, because it was a moment where I was able to sit back and just take it all in. I met with people I had beef with at the march. I ran into all my brothers. We were coming from different places, no cell phones. And we found each other on the mall. I ran into friends. I was drilling on Georgia Avenue in the McDonald's parking lot And it was a brother, he was a DI. I finally met him when I joined the nation. He was a dark-skinned brother, and I believe he passed from Chicago. And brother, he had about 100 of us in ranks, lost founds. That's just the spirit the night before going into the march. And those are memories that I'll cherish, forever.
Wow. I want to ask you this for the purpose of hopefully to get it on record too, because you just said something that I've heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan say about, gang members were resolving conflict at the march, right? But you're the first person that I've ever talked to that actually talked. Is there any amount of detail you can give about, one of the conflicts you resolved, like you squashed the beef with a brother,
No, brother, it really wasn't. It was just,
you just knew like we not, whatever we had is it.
Yeah, we knew we weren't there for that. We were here, and it was understood, and that was that. I'd still communicate. I talk to this brother to this day, and it wasn't any major beef, but there was a conflict, and it's just automatic. The spirit didn't. That wasn't even welcome. That energy, but it was none of that. And that was for the entire weekend. So,
wow.
Yes, sir.
You said a brother how do you get 100 lost farms to be drilling in McDonald's?
Well, listen, let me tell you something. In those who were there in the city of DC, I got into DC the day before. And brother, coming into the city, it was just electric. It was electric. I came in daytime. And, of course, you're young at the time. I'm 95, I'm 21. And, we're not Muslims yet. So we're looking, we want to be outside. So, but everywhere outside was, it was the spirit of the Million Man March. So Georgia Avenue is right, it's a strip right near Howard University. So it's a major strip, I would say. And just the cars, brother, you knew that there were 1 million men in the city.
Wow. So
just the traffic, there was no time to entertain foolishness. Brother, it was heaven. It was heaven. And we're talking about 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And just the greetings of peace. Like I said, electric. Yes, sir.
Wow. Do you remember anything about the minister's words that were shared that stuck, or any other memories that came from the march? Because I think we really should, especially after we've done the 20th anniversary and all of this, but there's still people who've attended this march who have stories that we haven't recorded, man. And we need to really get that stuff, because these people have went back to their towns and they have done great things and made real great transformations in their lives. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm asking you more details about it. Do you remember anything else that stood out to you from the march?
Well, yeah, that's several things. And among them was just, I got a chance to go to the Million Family March, the Millions More movement, and of course the 10-10-15. And although these were all great marches, it seems the last one, 10-10-15, it was just a different experience, because at this time, marijuana is legal. So we got people out there smoking, and it just took me back to 95. I'm like, wow, this is how far we've come. The minister's still able to get us to come on the mall, but the spirit was different. The fact that, I think the climate in Black America, as far as young Black men were concerned, it was a general consensus that we needed that. We needed to come as men. At the time, the minister was crisscrossing the city. You don't do something like that and there not be residual effects. So that kind of helped to shape the minds of those who were in attendance. There was an Orthodox Muslim brother on my college campus. Brother, he was an opponent. And he was he made it clear. And this is one of those who I used to, before I came into the nation, I would defend the minister, the messenger, the teachings. And this brother did everything in his power to try to get me to come to the Orthodox way. And then getting up to the march, he told me he was going to the march. Well, you know, I'm not going for Farrakhan, but I'm going to be. I just laughed under my breath that despite how you feel about the man, he still has the power and influence to get you to travel up to Washington, D.C. at an event that he called. So that's just the power of Allah and the Messiah. Yes, sir.
Wow. So you attended the march. It has an impact on you. So you went back to, were you in DC? You in New York? Like, which mosque did you fell in?
I went back to North Carolina, and by the time that first anniversary of the Million Man March in '96 at the UN building, I had enough. You know, I was living in New York. My dad came up at the time. He was living in North Carolina. And the plan was we were going to go to the UN, and which we did. And we headed south for about 4 to 5 hours. Remember the minister was on stage. I'm looking at the sharpshooters on the building. I'm looking at the presence of police, and the minister's in that glass case. And I'm in a really good, maybe 50 yards from the stage. And that was a good enough spot for me to hold that spot for 4 hours. And I was glued. And I took everything in, I listened, and that was where I began marking time. Savior's Day 97, because that seed had been planted. I knew that this is something I wanted to do. But when I heard that Ben Chavis had joined the nation, that was announced in 97, I said, okay. And by September, I was a registered Muslim.
Wow. And you were registered in, what was it, North Carolina?
Charlotte, number 36, North Carolina.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Who's I know brother Corey is the minister there now. Who's the minister you remember back then?
It was Minister Robert. He was a young man at the time. After that, Minister Lee. You know, very influential in my life as a minister that helped to shape me. You know, Minister Lee Muhammad. Yes, sir.
What about the FOI captain? Was there the FOI captain back then? Did he have a big impact on your life?
We had a few. While I was there. When I came in, it was Brother Thomas. May Allah be pleased with him. He's no longer with us. Brother Alfonso out of Washington, D.C. He eventually became the regional FOI captain. I learned so much from that brother. He had a wealth of information and knowledge and experience that, I benefited tremendously. And the wonderful believers of 36 and the Mid-Atlantic, and I've been around the nation, been to a few cities, but it was a perfect place for me to come in and to be shaped into who and what I am. And I'm happy the way I came in and when I came in, it was a beautiful time.
And you have this military bearing about you. And I know during that time in the 90s, we had the regional captains. I think at that point, a lot of the regional captains were a part of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's personal security, right?
That's
Captain
right.
Dennis's, the Curtis's, the Akil's, the Kaleb from Southwest. Any memories of them? Or I don't know if you had any contact with any of them, anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. Very limited, and but brother, at that time, the minister was just very active. And, we got a lot of our training, by hitting the road and piling in a car with the brothers, and we had regional believers meetings, regional FOI classes. And when I came in, we were meeting on Saturday mornings. Before the sisters would come in at 7 o'clock, and we would hit the field right after FOI class. And, you know, there was always road trips. One in particular, I wasn't even registered, brother. Minister had come to Atlanta, and they were meeting at a building, I think it's on MLK. And they put me on post. And there's a brother who actually, you know, had some choice words to say. And, you know, I was offended. And the brother actually tried to run us over. And, you know, I got a couple of licks off, you know, but, you know, they went after him. And that was that. But as a processing Muslim, that was an experience for me. And it was, it was right up my lane.
And how did you, like, you say there were other cities that you soldiered in as in the Nation of Islam, Charlotte, now you're in Atlanta. So did you go straight from Charlotte to Atlanta, or?
Oh, I moved back to New York. I was there for a few years and then moved back south. Yes, sir. But go ahead.
No, you said, and now you're in Atlanta, but you were saying in each, what, like, because most people, most believers don't have the opportunity to live in different cities in the Nation of Islam, you know, and most people, they all their life, they've been in that same city, but you've been blessed to travel around the different cities. You know, how has that impacted you as a believer?
Brother, you know, our people are all the same. That's for sure. But of course, there are always going to be areas where we may differ a little bit, depending on the terrain, which means that you have to adapt, and you have to know a little something about the mentality of the people where you are. You know, places like New York, and which most cities are, you know, they're ever changing. You know, with gentrification and people picking up and leaving places where they were born and raised, traveling, relocating. I mean, you see that everywhere. But there are certain cities like Chicago, New York, DC, and others that kind of have their own culture and expression. And oftentimes, and even in LA, you know, what is reflected in the streets sometimes can transcend into the mosque. And our ability to connect with those in the street will determine our level of success based on how we can connect and identify. And what I've learned is that there's no way around that. You know, you can have some success, but when it comes to someone who's not from Atlanta or not from Charlotte, you know, there are certain things you have to humble yourself and really tap in. Because if you're interested in the mission, which we should be, we have to be able to identify our people where they are and meet them there. But I have learned that in the South that our people, the ground is just, is so ripe. And spirit of humility of our people in the South, there's a way that you have to handle them that oftentimes as Northerners, you know, we can be a little abrasive, but oftentimes they're that way amongst themselves. That's just how it is. But we can also be a little obnoxious and arrogant, and that is not a good formula if you want to have success, you know, particularly in the South.
Yeah, that is definitely true. That's one of the things that always it'd be an interesting experience when I have the opportunity to travel up north and just see how people roll compared to like in the South. You know, it's a very interesting experience, man. And as we transition, another big thing I know about you, you know, you're very serious about fatherhood, man. And in your years of being a father, what do you say like are some of the valuable lessons you've learned in being a father?
Wow. But I had great examples. You know, my dad is an excellent father. My parents are still married to this day, 53,
Wow.
going on 54 years this April.
Wow.
And, you know, you can't have something like that as an example and then not have some impact on you. You know, his consistency, his dedication, his presence, you know, that's something that, you know, I use as a yardstick, but not just because I had an example, because I have a desire to be there. Like, that's my children, that's mine, that's my responsibility. And what Allah has given us, when you make them, that you have a duty to pour into them and to take responsibility for shaping them, in which I did something that for all of my children. I prayed to Allah, brother, that He would accept them and accept them to be used, you know, in His cause. And I prayed for that. And the spirit that I've learned, that, you know, the things that you're engaged in when you, I learned this with, I mean, I'm into dogs a little bit, and I've kind of heard that sometimes the nature of a dog and what it may be into at the time, the female dog is pregnant. No, those pups come out with that same nature based on what their mother's engaging in. And I find that to be true with us. And that How to Give Birth to a God series, brother, it is really something to be able to see the evidence of what the minister gave to us in that series, and to see it in your children, and to know that, you know, that was intentional. You know, it really works. Be there to receive my children when they were birthed into this world. But I mean, like, for me, there's no other option. You know, that there's nothing else for me to do. And I think it's one of the greatest honors that, you know, to be able to be a father and to serve in that capacity.
Well, you know, we're constantly having young brothers that are in the nation, in our mosque. I can remember all of us being single, being not that period. Everybody was getting married, then becoming parents. Some have begun to start entering into being grandparents. Some might even great grandparents. Like, what advice would you give to a young FOI watching this about, you know, being a father?
Yes, sir. Wow, never been asked that, but I do talk to young brothers a lot about, you know, definitely choosing a mate and making sure that, you know, you don't set your children up for failure by not choosing properly, and then also be ready for the responsibility, because, brother, you know, and it was 6 of us in the house. And there've been many a nights where we've had to rush to the emergency room, and it's nothing that you don't plan these things. And I mean, brother, you know, especially with boys, you know, so it's just one of them things where you're gonna have to be involved, and it's a beautiful process when, you know, you're dedicated and committed to the process. And I had a lot of practice, you know, helping to raise my nephews and nieces. And I've always loved children, even as a child. That was just something that I always had the gift and the ability to identify with children. So when I had my own, you know, it just second nature.
How has, you know, because in the cover for this actual interview, I got you with the FOI jogger on. And so how would you say has the training help you as a husband and help you as a father?
Man, brother, the fruit is the best. I believe that. I don't think that. I don't assume that I know that. And it is joining the nation was the best decision I've made in my life. I am really a company man, brother. You know, I am someone that, you know, I take honor in being a member of the class. And I understand that our people need this. So, you know, I've always been into art and, I've had, experience just dealing with clothing and fashion and that sort of thing. So it really is a tool, brother, when you really understand presenting the teachings in a way where you can express them verbally, or you can be an example, or you can have something on that our people recognize and it will create conversations. But I'm just passionate, about our brand. And that's just something that nothing, if I can say the word, trumps that. I know that the minister through us will get all his people. And I know it to be true that this is something that our people need.
And we've talked before, and we look at this time, we're starting to see even white men are talking about the attack on masculinity, right? And we're seeing this attack on masculinity. And with that being the case, how valuable is the training of the FOI to, in a sense, as a counter to that attack on masculinity from your perspective?
Man, brother, all we have to do is stand up, and hold fast to what we've been given. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to do a whole lot of thinking and overthinking. If we follow the example, you don't even have to mention masculinity. When we look at the example of a man that we've been given in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he embodies everything that you could possibly relate to manhood and masculinity in his example. And with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in his example, in the class that we've been given, the teachings are perfect. So we just have to present the clean glass. And once we do that, it'll be very easy. We don't have to argue with people, which, oftentimes we do. But in truth, we really don't have to do that. But after all else fails, we know comes Islam. And we're looking at that right now as we see things unfolding in the world, that there's nothing left for our people but Islam, as taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, under the leadership of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. They can leave it alone.
And were you, and thank you for those responses. So you were in Atlanta when Brother Sharif was appointed there, were you?
No, sir, I wasn't. No, sir.
Or you came, when you came, he was already installed.
Right. But I remember. Yes, I mean, he was traveling around the nation before he was appointed. And he was speaking to the believers. And I know I remember the climate in the atmosphere at the time. And the nation was buzzing, with his presence and coming to the different cities. And I remember the pilgrimage of believers who began to flock to Atlanta once he was appointed. So yeah, I remember that time, but no, I was not in the city at that time.
Right, when but you were now in the city when he was in leadership. How is that, man? How was that experience? I know he's recovering right now. How is that experience serving under Brother Sharif?
Well, brother, he has a wealth of knowledge just being with the minister for as long as he served as the Supreme Captain. And he's, I mean, brother, he's one of a kind. So at the end of the day, to have that example and his love for the minister, and I always enjoyed the stories that only he can give, and the testimonies of being with the ministers dealing with heads of state and kings and presidents. And I always loved when he taught on those things, because I mean, brother, it was just like, as a soldier, you know, that militant spirit and the militant accounts. I mean, as a man, you know, this is what we're into. You know, we like the spiritual stuff as well, but you know, it's energizing, and it's something that, you know, just reminds us of, you know, why we should be proud to be members of the FOI.
How do you think in regards to, well, you know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talks about how for every spiritual component, there's a physical component. For every physical component of something, there's a spiritual component, right? And sometimes I think about like how now you can go into a store or Walmart or whatever, and it seems like there's starting to be an abundance of fruit that are being sold without a seed in it. You know what I'm saying? I just like, that's just interesting. And it made me think about how we are called the FOI, and I was like, man, what the same way they're trying to, or they're not trying to, they have removed the seeds from the fruit that we eat. And I sometimes like, man, are they also trying to remove the seeds from the FOI, you know, that which grows up and that which can grow? So like, what do you think we can do, just even individual and as a brotherhood, to protect the brand, to make sure we're not like the salt that loses its flavor, as the scripture says, it's thrown on the earth and is trampled upon?
Man, that's profound, brother. That's a really deep question, and there's not a million answers to that when we understand the first work, and which we all have to do better. And you know, may Allah bless those who are, you know, still, you know, soldiering and going after our people as we should. But that is really the only way that our value can be measured, is by our ability to reproduce. And of course, there are other functions that we have, but our first work and our sole purpose is the resurrection of the dead. So that really is a profound analogy. And I think it definitely lays pressure on my mind, because, you know, that's not a job that you can just stop doing.
Right.
You know, this is something that, you know, the ministers, he's not dependent on us, but if we want to be his helpers, then these are the things that one must do. But, you know, just being able to reproduce ourselves and to be able to fish our people in, that's the only way I know.
That's one of the things we talked about today in the message, in regards to, you know, listen to the minister during Savior's Day. And one of the things that kept standing out to me was the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was saying, all of you all who are here, basically, he was like, you are evidence that I've been a helper to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And it made me think about, in regards to, dang, what will we produce? What will we, you know, what will we do? And just like what you said, it's important that we can't remove ourselves from engaging in this work to bring these teachings to our people, to give them the opportunity to latch onto this, to transform their lives, right? So, and I know, man, and you would probably agree with this, a brother in our region, he'll tell me this thing. He said sometimes he was working in the field of education. And he said sometimes he would leave out of the school, he'll be like, if it wasn't for Master Farah Muhammad, he said it'll be me and the white man against y'all. Talk about black people, right? But he would just say how sometimes how tough it is to work with us, but it's his belief in the Savior and what we're taught that keeps him not doing that.
Right.
And, you know, working with our people, sometimes it can be up and down. When Ezekiel saw him, he was like, Ezekiel said, God asked Ezekiel, can they live? He said, only you know. So what have you done, like Brother Kaleb, what have you done to maintain, you know, your spirit, that you don't, like, you haven't popped up one day and said, man, you know something, man, take this bow tie, man, forget black folks, I'm about to go do me. Because we've seen that happen.
Yes, sir. I mean, brother, listen, I knew I was going to be tried, and I have, and I continue to be tried. And none of that is enough to run me away from this mission, and understanding that what we have endured or what we think we've been suffering from is insignificant when we consider what the minister has had to endure. We know nothing about that. We and we often hear believers say, well, I'm not there yet. I never accepted that, because that's a cop out. We have to love our people, brother. I mean, there's no way around that. We don't give our lives and just hand our life to somebody and just, we're not saying that, but you have to be humble. And sometimes there's a misunderstanding. I look at my mother and I would read the words that she would write, just in her connection with the God and the love that she had for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan as a teenager.
Wow.
Her father, was not in her life during her teenage years. So the minister provided that father figure to many, including my mother. And my mother gave an example of how she had to defend the minister to her father when they reconnected. And I know something about that because I have the same love for the minister. There's certain things I just don't struggle with. It's not going to occupy any space in my mind when it comes to what people get hung up on, so, and then I can look at my children and see how they love the minister. So I'm able to connect that to say that, doesn't mean that we don't have to do things to preserve that love and to make sure that we maintain it. But, that I just don't have those type of struggles when it comes to that man. And I'm learning and I'm beginning to be more patient with us in the house, because that can be more of a struggle, because we are something else. But at the end of the day, I've learned that, brother, just because you got a problem with somebody, even if they did something that was dead wrong, Allah may still see something in them that doesn't necessarily cast them into hell like you would. And I've learned that, brother. And I don't do that to people. If there's an issue, if I have an issue with you, you're going to hear about it. I don't walk around with that type of thing on my chest. We're going to have a conversation. And I think that's the best way to preserve the brotherhood and the family.
See, and what you just said right there is a very significant. It's simple, but it's so effective, because some people allow their spirit to begin to start being impacted because they don't want to confront stuff. And confront on me like, hey, but just let's have a discussion. You said something or you did something and it didn't sit right with me. And just having those discussions. And I found out that oftentimes when those discussions are taking place, most of the time the person was oblivious and like, oh, I didn't know that I rubbed you that way. That was not my intention. But if we don't if we hold that in our heads and don't do what Allah in the Holy Quran tells us to do, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan encouraged us to do, it end up taking us away. So that's a beautiful thing. And also when you said too, I've learned this, man. There was somebody, I'm not gonna say their name, but they in the circle of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and they had a certain personality that rubbed people a certain way. And I had the opportunity to have dinner with this person. It was in our city, and it was just me and this person. And I began to learn about this person. And I came to the same conclusion that you had. Like, yeah, they might rub other people away, But that same quality that's rubbing other people away is that same quality that this person makes sure that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is treated like a dignitary.
That's right.
And I'll put that on a scale like, yeah, this might rub you wrong, but when you put it over here, this person is getting a lot of rewards because it's helping them to make sure that the man of God is not treated just like he's just some common person. And that's a hell of an understanding. Somebody said this too. Brother said brother looks half his age, man. So we'll talk about that. What do you do like to keep you look very youthful? You look, you know what I'm saying? You look very youthful. You eat one meal every week. What are you doing?
No, sir, brother. I strive to to follow the dietary law. I definitely make it my business to stay fit. So I do train. And at the end of the day, we just have to find, and I have to do better with this as well, where find the things that make you happy. And I've struggled with that, with just being inundated with work. And as we get older, brother, these years, they fly by. And if we don't take the time to make adjustments, that we can make time to do the things that make us happy, we'll find ourselves being very regretful. Yes, sir.
So in that process, what have you found are some of the things that make you happy?
Man, brother, I love to create. I love to train. I love to fight. I enjoy boxing very much. I enjoy family. I enjoy the brotherhood. I enjoy being able to get on the nature's trail. But I love sunsets. I love creation. I love planting. And I also love how, with my children in particular, I'm able to see some of the things that they get from me, and their mother as well, but to see that passed on through you and to see it in the next generation. My son, as I shared with you, you have a daughter who's, she's a veterinarian now, right?
She's in a second year of veterinarian school.
My son is actually looking to do his first travel abroad. But he's a lot like me in that, we love the same things, simple things. We love animals, we love planting, and he's just a more enhanced version, of me in those areas. But I love to see that, and love staying out of the way, brother.
And yes, you mentioned, how long have you been married?
20 going on 21 years.
Wow, man. And your parents, you say about to be 54 years of marriage?
54 years.
And then in your over 20 some years of marriage, what advice, not like from your experience, that's what I'm saying, advice. From your experience, what would you tell those who will see this show or watching this show who are married now or, in their early years of marriage, or contemplating marriage, or they're about to get married?
Man, there's so many things that you can say. But definitely just choosing wisely and being patient and being a team player and not entertaining certain forces, whether it's family or not. Stay out of people's business and mind the business that pays you. As men, we have to be good examples, for our wives as well, so that that everything else will follow.
You mentioned in regards to boxing. I like boxing as well, and so I was because, and one of the things I would like to see, Brother Kaleb, there's a brother, I think he's from out of Newark. He has some real good analysis about sports, man. And every time I see him, I'm like, brother, you need to do a podcast on sports, because as Muslims, we watch sports, we watch basketball, we watch football. Like, yeah, so like, why not have our version of it where we can talk, right? So, what's your thoughts on Clarissa Shields, man?
Oh, the GWOT?
Yeah, you think she's the GWOT?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. She's proven that. But I mean, there's really, I don't see any opposition that will be a problem for her. And I think that what we tend to do oftentimes, just us as a people, we tend to look at what people do in their personal lives and allow that to have some bearing on what they do in the ring, in which I don't really have a problem. I love our people, brother. So whatever they are, as long as you keep my minister's name out your mouth, I'm good. I can work with
them. So that the debate is if about her and Layla Ali, of course the age is different, but ideally if both of them were in their prime, who you think would take it?
We'll never know. We'll never
know. I know that's one of those discussions you never can really.
We'll never know. I would rather see them honor each other and respect each other. And the fact of the matter is, there's an appetite to see the infighting. That's a problem for me. I don't like to see that. And can't help but to talk about the obvious feud between 50 Cent and T.I.
What are your thoughts?
I think that we have a lot more things to worry about as we see Armageddon raging in the Middle East. That if our people don't have an appetite for that, 50 and T.I. would be quiet.
Yeah. And the other thing, especially with the work that we're doing with conflict resolution, and one of the things I often point out to people who attend the workshops, especially with celebrities, like in the hood, it may be a little difficult for two people that are rivals to get in contact with each other, because it may just be neighborhood, whatever it is. But like with these celebrities, I'm like, you can more than likely you have this person's telephone number. So before I go out and blast you on social media, whatever, I'm gonna call you. And that was one of my big questions. If I ever had the opportunity to ask J. Cole or any of them, like when this stuff jumped off with Kendrick, did y'all have a conversation? Did you call him to find out, like, yo, what do you meant to check the temperature, to see what was up? Because it just seems like we're not communicating. And then that breeds it.
Yes, sir. And I just think it takes humility as well. And I think with fame and money and, a voice and a platform, we can kind of lose ourselves. And there's a lot of power in being able to have the fandom and the ability to, to write and record a song and get a reaction like that can be very addictive. And I think when you have very few entertainers who, I love Jay's position. And when you look at his engagement or lack of, when it comes to the daggers and just the hate and he just maintains his cool. And I think that's a wonderful example for everyone, and he has probably a greater right to flex than anybody, and he does. So
it's interesting that you say that, because I said, man, that's kind of like a superpower for people that don't feed into the shots that people take after on them. Even the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is like that to an even larger degree, because he comes back and still shows them love. I want to ask you this before we get ready to close out, because you mentioned about your love for creating, and when we order some stuff and you blessed me with one, the green just a cold-blooded green jogger, man. With the, you still make those?
I do, but brother, I'm transitioning now where, you know, in my business, of course, I do produce, you know, with print and embroidery, and I do a lot of, I provide that services for a lot of people who need that kind of work. And I'm very close to my launch for my own line. So you will be blessed with some samples once that is complete. I'll be sure that, you know, you get me your sizes. You look like you're the same size as you were 10 years ago. So
few little pounds I got to knock off, but I'm pretty much the same size.
Yes, sir. But I'll be sure to bless you with that.
For Savior's Day, I was at my table for the whole weekend, and then the time that I did get a chance, I think I walked past your table. You weren't there because I saw you had something like Farad 1930, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So for people who interested in getting checking out your stuff, where can they find it? I'll type it and post it in the thing.
starandcrescent.shop.
That's on Instagram?
No, that's a website.
Okay, with a www.
starandcrescent.shop.
Star and A-N-D, right? Crescent.
Correct.
ESCENT.
Yes, sir.
.shop.
Yes, sir.
So we'll get ready to close. What are some of the, just briefly, so what's some of the things that they can get? Let me pull it up 1 second. So for those people watching, y'all make sure y'all can go. Huh?
There are some things that will be discontinued from that. So, and I will be transitioning over to my own line, and I'll be sure to provide you all that information once that is done.
Okay, well, I look forward to the brand, man. You definitely, I'm definitely want to support and get others in our city to support. Thank you, brother Kaleb, man. Always much respect, much love, man. Always enjoy talking to you, man. We gotta link up and talk some more about the latest hip hop, J electronic or something, whatever that's out there. And inshallah, hopefully, if I'm ever back in the city, we'll get a chance to link up again. So, any closing words you would like to share before we close out?
Yeah. Man, just thank you, brother, for the opportunity. I'm honored and humbled that you would even invite me to be a part of this. I just pray to Allah that I shared something that can help someone, and I appreciate your brotherhood, brother. And that's one of the things that I think as an FOI is just the ability to be able to identify a brother, no matter what city he's from, and to connect. You know, that's just something I pride myself on, is just being able to extend myself as a bridge, and, you know, the benefits that come from that is brotherhood. And I
agree completely. And one of the things that I always tell people, and I think to myself, I said, I don't have yet the financial means like a millionaire and all this type of stuff. But I say, but if I was able to, if the relationships and the people who are considered to be friends and brothers and sisters, if I was able to have financial value to that, I would be a millionaire, man. And you're one of those brothers, man, that I know I can call, definitely learn from, and we can actually talk. And you keep it real, man. So I appreciate it, brother, for what you're doing. Give your family the greetings, man. And thank you for honoring us with the opportunity to have you as a guest.
Thank you.
And may Allah continue to bless you.
You as well, sir.
All right. Thank you all for tuning in to hear our brother. Make sure you go to his make sure you go to the page that he has, where he says is Star and Crescent .shop, right? Make sure you go and support that. This is your brother Willie Muhammad. Also, if you were watching the thing that we did with the brothers about the reality of God, I know we had a brief little technical issue, but both of the parts are on Closing the Gap Broadcast Network and on Mosque number 46. So this is your brother Willie Muhammad, and we're signing off. Peace.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us. He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.